Jeff and the Rabbi. I think we got a great conversation, a great discussion to go with today. Back in the 70s.
Back in the day,
our guy behind us, Jimmy Carter, he gave an interview to a magazine, and in the interview he mentioned that he lusts in his heart. Now, not in action. He said he didn't act on it, but he lusts in his heart. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing from Rabbi Freeman that hey, the Torah might say that lusting in the heart might be as bad, or maybe in some cases worse than actually the actions.
Can you imagine that?
This obviously scared me when hearing this. Number one, just as I mentioned, Jimmy Carter was absolutely my all-time favorite peanut farmer that I ever even heard of. I tell you, as a president, the guy was right down one or two in the bottom, probably two in my book, but he was down there in the bottom. But peanut farming is a great guy, but that's a different discussion. But the whole lusting in the heart thing and that being a sin is really kind of scary to me. And I'm thinking to myself, it's sort of like that Marine or Army commercial. I sometimes then probably sin more before 10 o'clock in the morning than most rabbis sin all day.
I mean, can you imagine what the world would look like if we were going to call out all the lusters in heart?
Wow. I mean,
it's whoa.
It's like, example, I drive to work every day, and I drive by this, like a running trail. And every once in a while, I can't help it. You glance to the right, you glance to the left. This morning, I'm nervous as can be. And after reading your topic, I'm staring straight at. I'm afraid I'm going to get in a wreck. I'm staring straight at.
There you go. Yeah.
Luckily.
Actually, maybe you won't get in a wreck because you're staring straight. Maybe this is the first. Maybe it was the safest drive you ever had to work.
It actually could be. Yeah. And luckily, also today, maybe it's because it's cold. There wasn't really much to look at on the run today. The runners were, and I'm trying to be more politically correct. What's the politically correct term now for fat? Because I don't want to say anything that's going to offend anybody. I don't know what it is. Posteriorly abundant, whatever it was.
Yeah, probably.
It's the weather, I think.
Metrically challenged.
I like that even better. Yeah. So I was okay today, so I'm all right. But it still is a little worrisome for me. Sometimes, my friends and our wives will all go out to dinner, and some of my friends. You probably know what I'm talking about. We'll go out to dinner, and we'll go out to some really classy, nice restaurant in Atlanta. And usually when we sit down, the guys will sit down at one end of the table, the women sit down to the other end of the table, and actually, like this weekend, we actually asked to see if they could bring a makitzah up there that's separated.
Yeah, that's right.
But, the Golden Corral in Atlanta does not provide one, so that's one of the things I checked on my, that comment card at the end.
I didn't know that one place was kosher. I'll have to check that out.
It is, but they don't provide a makitzah, so, I was upset about it. But anyway, I digress again. The conversations sometimes really degrade a little bit. The women, let me tell you about this. They're speaking of lust in the heart and degrading debauchery. We listened to them speaking this time. What I bought yesterday, what's on sale today, what I'm going to buy tomorrow. You're talking about lust in the heart. This stuff is like going beyond the thing. And now, they don't know that they're sinning. Over on our side, on the men's side, not me, but the other guys around me, they get a little crazy themselves in the conversation. And, we talk about a lot of things, but I'm always thinking, really, we're not acting. Who's even going to hear about it besides the people for 3 or 4 tables down the road, probably the Obama administration because they're listening to most things. But other than that, who's even going to hear our conversations? How's that sin?
So, that, and everyone would tell you, this is the obvious part that without hearing from me, that one of the reasons not to lust in your heart is because if you keep lusting in your heart and talking about it and thinking about it, ultimately you're going to come to do it. That's one
thing to give you credit on that one. I guess if most of the Jews in the 70s knew what was in Jimmy Carter's heart, they might not have voted for him.
Right.
Maybe still, but maybe they wouldn't have voted for him. So good point there. I got to give you that.
But everyone knows that. It's a psychologically proven principle. You keep thinking about it. You keep thinking about it. You're going to do it. Okay. So therefore, it's not a good idea to be thinking about it. But I'm talking about besides that. I'm talking about the very act of thinking, not because it will lead to. Right now is. So
wow.
This is a Kabbalistic idea that actually I could translate into perhaps more of a psychological, emotional, use psychological, emotional terminology that I think would express the idea better.
Okay.
We are composed of 3 parts, all of us human beings. Okay? The first part, this is the way the Torah looks at it, certainly the Kabbalistic approach is. The first part, we could call it the lower part, is that of our animal drives.
Right.
That's which makes us get up and move and be active and, want to do things, want to accomplish things and all that. Okay? Those animal drives, we're hungry, we want to get food, we want to get shelter, we want to, all the things, preserve ourselves, preserve our body, and all that. Okay? We'll call that the body.
Okay.
Actually, in Jewish terminology, we really believe that there's the body has a soul, and then the heart has a soul, and the mind has a soul.
Okay.
But let's just call them body, then we'll move up to heart, and we'll move up to mind. Okay, then the heart is the seat of all the emotions. Those are all our wants. Those things are not necessarily driven by our body. Like, for example, honor. If everyone's standing there and clapping for you, your body's not feeling good. Your body's feeling good when it's getting all of its, physical gratification. Nice warm house, a nice good meal, a nice good, all kinds of physical, nice physical, tactile, sensory. That's the body.
Right.
But, the emotions get a lot of feedback in a lot of different ways, like honor and inspiration and all of, like the things, lots of good things, bad things, but, all these things that work on our heart and our emotions. And then there is the intellect, the highest part, the intellect. We'll call it the highest part. And the intellect is the one that understands, uses our creative mind. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. The intellect can impact the heart.
Okay.
The body can impact the heart. And the body is saying to the heart, hey, man, I'm hungry.
Right.
I'm hungry. And the heart goes like, whoa, I really want to eat. And then, the body is saying, I'm hungry. The heart looks up, sees the billboard, looks really good. The heart wants to go there, okay? Or the heart sees the billboard and it's got like a certain picture on it and attracts it more to that restaurant than to that restaurant. Really what's motivating the whole thing is the body.
Right.
Okay, now, it turns out, actually, that if a person sins or does a good deed, everything that we do is registered up in heaven. But, interestingly, there are 3 accounts it's registered in. There's lower level, medium level, and higher level.
I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's going to complicate everything, I have a feeling.
Okay. So, when I do something, the extent to which my body was into it, it registers on the body level. The extent to which my heart was into it, it registers on the heart level. And the extent to which my mind was into it, it registers on the mind level. So, for example, I do something, it feels good, I'm into it emotionally, it is intellectually pleasing and enticing to me. So I do it, I'm like totally into it. I'm totally there, right? With all of me, 100%, Well, in that case, that's going to impact on all 3 levels. I'm sending a really powerful message, impulse up to heaven.
Okay.
And guess what? A real positive, powerful impulse is going to come back down because God's going to react to my, instruction that I'm sending up there. If it was good, that which I did, it's going to get a real positive response. If it was bad, that which I did, it's going to get a real
deep,
negative response. Right.
Okay.
But here's where it really gets interesting. If they're hooked in, if the hook in from the body is hooked in onto a lower level and the heart is on a medium level and the mind is on the highest level, what if I don't do the deed completely? Some people would say, like, not wholeheartedly.
Okay.
But let's say I do something and my body is into it. My heart's not into it and my mind's not into it.
Okay.
Like, for example, I'm hungry. I'm really, really hungry. The food that's available isn't kosher. I eat it. You know why I eat it? Because I'm hungry. Because my body is saying, I want food. And I don't have the resolve to tell my body to wait. My heart's really not into it. In my heart, I'm saying,
it's bad.
This isn't kosher. I shouldn't be doing this, right? And my mind for sure understands, you're gonna get it for this. We shouldn't be here.
Right.
We should. But my body is saying, so I'm listening to my body. The truth is, I'm saying, I wish there was a kosher restaurant, but, there are no kosher restaurants here in Poughkeepsie. What can I do?
Right.
So my body is doing it, but my heart's not into it, my mind's not into it. That sends a low-level impulse to heaven. So even if it's a sin, it's a low-level one.
And then I'm confused here. You would think that would be the worst sin.
You would
You're
think.
not listening to your heart. You're not listening to your mind. You're going right with your body. That sounds like a pretty bad sin to me.
You would think. But what comes out here is your body only sinned.
Okay.
Now, let's say you go to the same restaurant. Now, I know that this is wrong. But you know what? I am really enjoying it here. This is a scene. I never get to come here. I see the people are here. I like the waitresses. I like the whole scene. I love this place. I always saw them. In my hometown, I would never eat there because I don't want anyone to see me. But now that I'm so far away from home, I'm having just this is a gas.
So you're going all out on this one now.
I know it's bad.
Right.
I know it's bad. So my mind is not into this. As a matter of fact, my mind is saying, get out of here, get out of here. But I'm enjoying the scene, and my body is hungry, and it's enjoying the food. So now I got low level and mid level.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's harder. Now, let's say I got, the next one is like, my body's into it, my heart's into it, and my mind says, who believes in that stuff anyway? I don't believe in those rules. A bunch of rabbis made that up. Who said you da-da-da-da-da? Now, I'm doing this because I want to be me, and I don't want to be tied down by all those stupid rules. That's stupid, right?
Yeah.
Now you got a high-level sin.
That's a bad one.
Let's turn it back the other way. So let's say I'm not sinning, not eating in that restaurant. You know why? Because you're not supposed to. And after all, how would it look sitting at the Golden Corral? I've got long payas and a big round hat and a back coat. I'm not doing that,
Picture for the internet,
right,
other than that.
Right, that would. So I'm not doing it.
Right.
Plain and simple, I'm not doing it, and I'm certainly not doing it anywhere around home where someone might see me and that would be ugly.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. So I'm not eating there. I'm not eating there. And you know what? I don't even care about that scene. But in my mind, what if I'm saying, but dang, I would like to be eating there because these rules that are preventing me from eating there, they're stupid, and I really should be eating there, and it's good to be eating there, but Now, my body's not sinning, and my heart's not sinning, but my mind is. Yeah. So where's the impulse going? Highest level. Now, it's true, when you have the combo, when you have all three together, that's the triple punch, that's the worst. But sometimes you can have a high-level sin, which if you have one of the three, you could have the high level being worse than the low level, meaning I'm sinning in my mind is worse than sinning with my body, but my mind's not into it.
So let's just go back to your example. So you're saying, and let's say you're the rabbi here, and you're saying, this is just, I don't believe any of this stuff. But you don't do it. You don't eat the Golden Corral.
I'm not going to risk my job.
You don't risk your job. If somebody sees you, your reputation.
Right.
That's worse than, you know what? Nobody's looking. Let me have some of that shrimp off the buffet.
If it's worse, if I know I shouldn't be doing this, I believe it's wrong, I don't know, but I'm so hungry, my body
that's
wants
just a weakness.
that.
You're saying that's just a weakness versus this is a...
Right. My body wants it. And you know what? Of the three, the body is the lowest one. The body is the lowest one. The body, we share that in common with the polar bears and the aardvarks. It's a body. You got a polar bear, he eats, and the aardvark eats, and I eat, The difference between me and the aardvark is I got a heart and I got a mind, that's made me different. And if I use that part, which, is the part that I share with the godliness part, so that has a real big impact where that mind goes. So it's really severe. Now we could switch this and talk on the good side too, which is, in the positive sense.
Right.
So I could do the mitzvah. I'm thinking some guy comes to me, let's say, asks for charity. I give him $5. I give him $500, whatever it is, right? This is stupid. I shouldn't be doing this. I don't really want to be doing this, But I got to do it because I just want to get this guy out of here. And the fastest way, rather than argue with him, is give him the money and tell him to get. I shouldn't be doing this, and this is stupid, and they tell me it's a mitzvah. I don't believe in that mitzvah stuff and all that. Well, the mitzvah you got was low level, because all you did was a body mitzvah. You know, you took your $500 out of your pocket and you put it in his pocket. It's a body mitzvah. It's low-level mitzvah, right? You could have someone else who'd be sitting there, and the guy comes and he says, can you give me, hey, buddy, can you spare a dime? And you say, in your heart and your mind, you believe, I'd love to give this guy a dime. I don't even have a dime to my name. But I so wish I could. It would be such a great mitzvah. I really would desire to do it. So then you're doing this big high-level mitzvah, even though in practice, you never even gave the guy a dime.
Wow. No, I actually see that. That one I can see better than the first argument. That one I can understand. But it kind of always reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if it's Catholicism or whatever. You know, they what they think is actually even worse. I mean, if they think in their heart, I don't know if I'm saying this correct. I'm not really versed on Catholicism that well. But if they think I'm going to go sin, I want to go steal, that's worse. They got to go to confession for that, and that's worse, I think, than the actual act.
So, you know, this is
our thoughts? Are you saying our thoughts, or is it?
You know, to tell you the truth, and again, I'm no theologian. Right. You know, I know Judaism. As soon as I get Judaism down pat, the next place I'm going to like study up Catholicism. Okay. Just as soon as I get that Judaism all down pat, but I still haven't gotten it all straightened out.
At this point, right?
But I'm thinking that maybe that's kind of where Jimmy Carter was trying to draw the line.
Right.
To draw a distinction between himself and that Catholic approach,
right,
which they're worried about a lot of the sins of the heart and all that. All I'm saying is that the Torah does say heart. And as a matter of fact, one of the biggest, one of the Ten Commandments. If you look at the Ten Commandments, let's look at them. The first one is, I am Lord your God, which we understand to mean to believe in God.
Yep.
Well, where do you do that? How do you do that?
In your heart, in your soul, and in your mind.
It's your mind. I mean, physically, you might do some actions that could be interpreted as, or that you would only do because you believe in God, but by and large,
well, the Shema says that pretty much. The Shema, you say that.
Yeah.
You believe in God in your heart, and your soul, and
right,
your mind.
And with your body, so you're going to do mitzvahs. But to tell you the truth, most of your believing in God has to do with your mind, much more than your body.
That's true.
I mean, you know, because a person could do an act with his body, it's open to interpretation. I could do the very same act. It might be a belief in God. It might not be a belief in God. But, you know, if you believe, you believe. It's in your head. So you got to believe in God, you know. You got to believe in the Lord your God. Don't have any other gods before me. That starts with. Don't have any other gods. What do you mean I have other gods? If I don't believe in other gods, it's a belief. Go all the way to the other end. Don't covet. Well, what's coveting? Coveting is a heart thing.
That's true.
It's in your heart. So you see that the Torah does address our heart. We see that the Torah makes a big difference, big difference, if you did a sin on purpose or premeditated or not.
Right.
You know, makes a big difference, right? So you see that the heart makes a difference. It's not just the actions, what you're thinking about. For example, if someone kills by accident, it's one thing. If someone murders intentionally, it's quite something else.
But are you saying to the person, I really like to kill him, that's worse than killing him?
So,
I really wish I could kill that guy.
As a matter of fact, a person, the Torah says, thou shalt not hate your brother in your heart. There's a mitzvah directed exclusively to your heart.
That's not in the top 10.
And he didn't say don't hit him, don't shoot him, don't hate him in your heart, which means I could go my whole life, I never did a thing wrong to the guy, but I hate him in my heart. And the Torah says you're not allowed to do that. The Torah says, and that means God is monitoring your heart. Are you hating your friend? Oh. But I didn't do anything. God says, I don't care. I said, don't hate him in your heart. I didn't say don't hate him in your body. I said, don't hate him in your heart.
Listen, Judaism is tough enough with every rule and every regulation we have. Now you're telling me what we think is going to be we have to worry about? This is tough.
Right. So really the idea of purity of thought and purity of heart is really more important than purity of action. And the truth is it flows from that, you know.
So what then is forgiven first when you repent? Whether your thoughts or your actions?
So, there could be, let's talk about that. It's a very good point. Let's say there's a penitent.
I didn't think of it, by the way. It was a question that was written in, so don't give me credit for
Good,
that.
okay, well, okay, we've got a very educated viewership here. This is a really good question.
I should take credit for it, but I can't. I can't do it because I know everybody's listening now. So
And someone's going to you liar, you did. Right. And they might even hate you in their heart.
Right,
That would be really bad.
I don't want that.
Let's say someone's studying, thinking, repenting. The person says, you know what? I really got to stop sinning. And they also say, it's really, really hard. Yesterday, I didn't really realize that what I'm doing is wrong. But today, I've come to the conviction and the belief that what I'm doing is wrong. Now, I really should stop doing it. But you know what? It's so hard because my situation and my wife and my friends and my kids and my job and my schedule and so to me to start making those kind of changes is really going to turn myself inside out into a pencil, even though in my heart I really believe it's wrong. That has already made a huge shift. There's a huge shift right there in the nature of the sin.
Okay.
Now, you might say, well, if his heart was really, really into it, then he'd really go all the way. So it's true. Maybe his heart's not totally into it, but it's a great shift between yesterday saying hey, what's wrong with this? And to today saying, you know what? Really, really difficult for me to change because, my business is selling ham sandwiches on the Sabbath, and really, really difficult. So at least, though, they've made the mental move. And in that way, all the sins got downgraded, which is good.
Okay, well, the real question most people that are watching this, and there's going to be thousands as I'm obviously watching this episode, are going to be asking themselves, okay, Rabbi Freeman, that's easy to say. What about when you're driving, like the example I gave her, you're driving down the road and something pops into your head. You see a great billboard. You see a pretty-looking girl. You see I don't know if you've seen this commercial for the bacon, cheddar, I think what else? They got there might even be shrimp on this thing. And they got everything. You go cheese, sandwich. You can
and
have.
It's all glistening.
And it's
shiny.
Shiny, and you hear that sizzling noise when they're showing the commercial.
Right.
What happened? It pops into your head. Wow, I eat that sandwich, or wow, that's nice, or what? I mean, that's what most people are asking here. Is that bad? That pop in the head thing?
Yeah. Yes. And as a matter of fact, what a person is supposed to do, it says in the Talmud that if this degenerate bumps into you,
right.
What does it mean? If the degenerate bumps into it, that means if you run into one of those situations where the degenerate, meaning the bad guy out there, that urge bumps into you.
Right.
So the first thing the Talmud says is drag him to the study hall.
Oh.
What does that mean, drag him to the study hall? So what that means is that you should actively say, I want to change what I'm thinking about. Try to focus on something else. Try to put something else into your mind.
I got so much pressure already.
Change the channel. Change the channel. Hit the clicker. Do something. Hit the channel changer and try to change. Try to think about something else. Focus on something else. I've had situations where, my eyes are closed and some crazy sight pops into my head.
I've been there.
So sometimes I actually will open my eyes to look at something just to put something else in front of my eyes. And, just clear out that sight.
So let's say you're putting on tefillin. You're talking about a great mitzvah. This is a mitzvah that but I guess that's a body mitzvah because you're told to put on the tefillin.
Yeah.
And something pops in your head. Does that negate the mitzvah I'm doing for tefillin there?
Yeah. So it certainly could.
Now I shouldn't have just said this. Now that's going to happen to me every day.
It could even be worse because, and this is expected that you'd run into this problem. It would be worse because while you're doing a mitzvah. So let's say you got it on, okay? So we talk about the Satan, which means that tension that tries to get us not to do evil, and that struggle. So you're putting your tefillin on. Well, vis-a-vis, let's talk it from Satan's perspective. He already lost the body.
Right. So he's going.
So he says, okay, I still got the heart and the mind, right? So therefore, all out assault on the mind. Because, the body I lost. Right. But that's okay. I can contain the damage. As long as I don't want it to get up to his mind. So, he's rolling out all the images and playing back the tapes and, all that stuff. So therefore, that's when you got to drag him into the study hall, meaning try to put something else in your mind. Try to focus on your words, and this is really, really important in general. Try to squeeze it out. And we will find, and this is really, really an amazing thing that people don't realize. There was once a very great rabbi, and people said, like, what makes you so great? Why are you so great? And he says, you know why I'm great? He says, because I have the ability to focus on something for a half hour.
I don't, so I'm out.
Right. So nowadays, the whole deal is we don't have the ability to focus on anything for 3 seconds.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. So therefore, we can't ever hold on to a thought, good thought, bad thought, whatever it is. We can't hold on to a thought. If we work on that focusing, and that's really what I'm talking about today, is making the mind our battlefield rather than just retreating. I'll secede the mind. Okay, you can have the mind, you can have the heart, but I'm going to hold on to the body. That's what Jimmy Carter. I'm just going to hold on to the body. Try to retreat to the high ground and hold on. Nah, you already lost the war. We want to take the battle to the mind and try to win the battle of the mind.
Wow.
And that's where the fight is. That's where the real fight is. That's where the real gain can come. And if we do that, we can become extremely powerful. Can you imagine if someone would develop in our day and age the ability to think focused for 10 minutes?
Well, they try. They have every ADD medicine you can possibly have. That's what they're trying to develop. But
you could probably rule the world if someone could just carry on like a focused thought for 10 minutes. Can you imagine what you could come up with? You could figure out all kinds of things. But we can't, because by the time we've thought about something for 10 minutes, we've thought about 500 things along the way.
What are you talking about now?
Yeah.
I'm already on the next week's show. I don't even know what you're talking about at this point. I have a little trouble with that sometimes.
Right.
But what about jealousy, though? I mean, things like these, but some things are, normal emotions. Is that a sin, too?
Yep.
I mean, the whole thing, so all of that's got to get out of there.
I'm talking to someone, I'm thinking bad about that person, I'm thinking about the person behind them, So, okay, I'm going to focus on this person. I'm going to put my thought where they are. I'm thinking bad about them. I'm going to push it out and think good. I just saw a book, just read a little bit of it, didn't get to read the whole book. But the book is called Self-Talk. And the whole book is about self-talk.
I think actually I've seen this one.
I think it's a rabbi. His name is Pliskin.
Yeah, I've read it.
Right.
Well, I got bored. I lost interest halfway through. No, actually, I did buy the book. I actually
Self-talk is all about how you talk to yourself, meaning what's going on in your head, and how that can really frame your actions. But the idea is that you have the ability to pick. When you're sitting by yourself, you have the ability to choose what conversation you're going to have.
That's true. Yeah, I got a lot of the self-talk going on all the time. I guess everybody does, and it's hard to control. I mean, it's
so what I'm saying is, if God is holding us responsible, if He's going to reward us for it or punish us for it, it must mean we have the ability to control it.
Wow. So as I think, as you've said before many times, there's not really great selling points for Judaism. This is just another one down there. Let's take this to the next level of toughness here.
Well, yeah, but you know what? The people, where the real power comes from. If you can control your brain, you can be super powerful.
If you can, I agree on this one. If you could do this, then it's all going to work out.
Right. The power, the control. I mean, what you have at your disposal, because we got this great brain, but it's out of control. Like no one can even touch it. This is like 69 times 47. Well, I got to pull out my calculator, right? Because people can't even add numbers anymore. We can't even multiply numbers anymore.
I was doing Chisholm Bop here, and I don't know if you remember that from the 60s or 70s.
Right.
It's interesting. So the bottom line, that's what the problem with Jimmy Carter was.
So Jimmy Carter, he gave up. He gave up his mind, and he gave up his heart to things that he didn't believe in. Right. But he said, it's okay as long as I hold on to my body. That was a poor tactical retreat. He thought he was making a tactical retreat. He really ran up the white flag. He surrendered.
Well, he did that often.
Yeah.
That's it. This was an interesting one. I got to tell you, it's an interesting one. This is Judaism 205. You got to move up a little harder.
Yeah,
this is when you get to the good stuff here. If you really can make it this far, you're doing pretty well.
Right.
All right, great. Well, we'll see you next week with another great episode of Jeff and the Rabbi.